Hello again, team. You're about to hear my interview with Dhiraj Jain of dotkonnekt. Dotkonnekt is a brand new in final beta e-commerce platform specifically targeted at mid-enterprise and larger DTC merchants that want to combine content and commerce seamlessly across the entire customer journey. Enjoy. This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. It's awesome to have you along for the ride today, and I've got an amazing guest for you today who's going to share all about his awesome commerce technology. I've got Dhiraj Jain, and he is the co-founder and CEO of dotkonnekt. Welcome, Dhiraj, to the podcast today.
Hey, thanks, Jason, for having me here today. Excited to having a chat about the shared passion we have about commerce technology.
Absolutely, my friend, and hopefully I said your name. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yeah, fairly close. You can also call me DJ by my initials. A lot of my friends, they do call me DJ.
Makes it a little bit easier, but I always try to get my guests' names right wherever I can. Now, you've got this platform, dotkonnekt, that you've been working on for several years now, and 2.5 years, and you're based in India. And I've never used your platform before, never used your technology before, so I'm really looking forward to hearing more about it and how it operates. But what you describe the platform as is a technology that allows merchants to grow their direct-to-consumer channel organically with an experiential commerce platform built for those D2C brands. So can you tell me a little bit how dotkonnekt came to be, a little bit more about your background, and were you scratching an itch when you built this platform, or did you see a gap in the market that you said, hey, I think I can build something to help these D2C brands? What we're seeing today is just exploding CAC costs, and D2C brands are having to align themselves with influencers and everything else. And we can do to work with organic traffic and drive organic traffic to brands is a very big deal. Your claims around your technology are going to be music to D2C brands' ears.
No, absolutely. So thanks for giving me this opportunity, Jason. So I'll start first, with the mission that we have, then I'll give you a little bit of a backstory as to how this came to be, how the dots connected for us before we started this. So our mission is very clear that we want to help brands grow organically through their direct to consumer channel. It's a big ask because for the past several years, most of the D2C growth has come primarily through performance marketing, right? The paid ads on Facebook, Insta, Google, driving the traffic to the D2C websites. That model worked for a while, almost, I would say, for a decade, where the CACs were relatively low. And that model was working day by day, week by week, giving reasonable growth. But then when the COVID hit and every brand started going online on their direct to consumer channel, and everyone was bidding for the same sort of keywords, the CACs continued to rise. And today, for most categories, the CACs are 10x to 20x and which makes it unviable model for brands to acquire traffic that way. So that's the phenomena we observed during the early phase of the pandemic. And we thought that now what will happen? And prior to that, both Chandan and I, Chandan is my co-founder and chief growth officer based in New Jersey. And both of us have been in this industry for 20 plus years. And we had been observing that a lot of brands have always wanted to go direct to consumer, but they were not able to really do it very well. In fact, until D2C was contributing to less than 2% of the brand's global revenue. It was minuscule, and even that revenue was coming on the basis of having a web store on Shopify and running paid ads on all the social channels, right? And that model was going to not work anymore. That was our hypothesis. And that's where we thought that there has to be a way where brands can solve this problem by attracting consumers organically. I'll take a pause there and then I'll give a little bit of more background about as to how we went about validating the hypothesis, what's our approach. But let me just take a pause and see if you had any questions so far.
No, look, I think the hypothesis of what you're referring to became apparent to a lot of us in the industry that have been in the industry for any length of time. And I guess it's a no-brainer for these big retail brands to recognize the exploding CAC, the death of third-party cookies, the privacy changes with iOS, etc. Every one of these major performance marketing platforms, including Amazon itself, the reality is they are building walled gardens, and they're raising the walls of their walled gardens every single day, and they're using, in some respects, they're using the red herring of security and privacy to do it, to justify actions, when in actuality, in my experience, most consumers don't give a rat's about privacy. They actually just want convenience, which is why people use biometrics to log themselves into their phones. The reality is that most people, they're looking for convenience over privacy. Now, with the rise of these walled gardens and the walls getting ever higher every day, and the cost of marketing through these performance channels just absolutely out of control and completely unsustainable for the vast majority of brands out there, the promise of your platform is you've got the attract through content concept or part of your platform, and then you've got the brand studio, which allows, at least according to your collateral, allows an experiential commerce experience through a unique tech platform. But what isn't clear to me, and maybe you can explain a little bit more, is are you looking to completely replace the likes of the Shopifys, the BigCommerces, the Magentos of the world, or do you integrate with a brand's existing e-commerce technology to extend the organic reach of that platform?
Oh, great question, Jason. So there are a couple of ways we help the brands solve this problem. But before I come to that, let me just take a step back and look at from the consumer standpoint. So when we looked at solving this problem, the first question we had in mind is that why do brands have to depend on performance marketing in the first place? That's because as consumers, when we, let's say, want to buy a product, let's say it's a hair shampoo or a moisturizer or anything, we intuitively don't think, and even if we love a particular brand and we have been using the products for a long time, we instinctively don't think as a consumer to go to brand's website to buy their product, right? Because like to your point, people prefer convenience, right? So we go to Amazon, we go to walmart.com and we purchase from there because it's easy. Or if I go to a neighboring supermarket, I pick it up from there. Now, what will motivate as a consumer to go to a brand's website? That's the problem we were trying to solve, that rather than relying on these expensive CACs through performance marketing, how can we encourage consumers to come to the brand's website and then engage with them and make the purchase over there? So when we looked at solving this problem, we had several inspirations from brands across the globe to see which are these brands that have really done a great job of attracting customers organically. And what's the common theme, right? Or what's the common factor across all of these their D2C sites that we observed was that unlike most D2C websites, which look like a Shopify or a Magento or a Salesforce Commerce, which is purely a commerce platform, and all you will see over there is a catalog, cart, and checkout capability. But some of these brands that have actually done really well, their sites did not look like a commerce platform in the first place. It looked like an experience platform, right? Where there was a lot of content, there was a lot of engagement, and then because they built trust based on that, then they were able to even give their business to them. A great example is which was started by Gwyneth Paltrow, right? Initially as a content platform for women across food, beauty, personal care, a lot of these segments. And there's a lot of fan following that people come there primarily to read the content. Then they slowly started integrating a lot of products into that, right? And even today, most of the sales come through this content-led commerce. And likewise, what hims and hers have done, right? So their engagement starts with a set of questions. They're first trying to engage, they're first trying to learn, they're first trying to solve your problem, and then maybe integrate products into that. So net, what we realized was the brands that can first add value to consumers and help them maybe solve a problem, they have the right to attract the consumers organically. Let's take an example. I was talking about, let's say if you want to buy a hair product, maybe a shampoo. If you want to now as a brand want to attract this customer, you will have to pay insane amount of CAC to attract that customer for, let's say, hair shampoo with aloe vera or whatever, right? But instead, let's say if I as a consumer I'm looking for what do I need to do to take care of my dry frizzy hair in winter, right? And let's say if a brand has done a great job of creating a content, okay, here are the 5 home remedies that you can do And by the way, you need a hair product that has aloe vera in it, right? And then also give a very seamless way to buy that product right from there. Now, if you have an experience like this, there is very high likelihood that you will be able to attract customers organically, either through SEO, or even if you have to do initially a little bit of content marketing. The cost of content marketing is 1/100th of the cost of product marketing, right? So at a very low cost, you can still attract customers. And once this customer has come to you by really benefiting from a great piece of content, and then you are able to engage with them and give them opportunity to buy the product seamlessly. Next time, if this consumer has any other issue, it come back to you organically. So this is the way you need to build it. Now, doing this again, it's not the first time. It's not a novel idea that we came up with. We looked at, okay, what has stopped brands to not being able to give this kind of an experience? Why some only few brands have been able to give this kind of an experience and not others? So when we dug deeper, we also realized that if you look at the genesis of all the existing commerce platforms out there today, you'll find invariably two kinds of commerce platforms. One that were designed and primarily built for large retailers. So be it the good old ATG, Oracle ATG Commerce, IBM WebSphere Commerce, SAP Hybris, Salesforce Commerce, all these platforms, they were designed and built for retailers, where you have hundreds of thousands of SKUs, multiple categories, subcategories, and the whole experience is search-based discovery. Because these retailers typically don't have to solve for attracting audience. They come to them and they just need to solve for a good search-based experience. Then you have like Shopify or WooCommerce that were designed and built primarily for mom and pop shops, right? For
Mhm.
SMB businesses, where there's a very easy way for them to build a catalog, build a cart, and do the checkout, right? And these platforms, they do amazing job for that segment. If you really look at it, no one has ever built a commerce platform which is purpose built for brands. Why? For brands, D2C was so minuscule until pandemic, less than 2% of their revenue globally, that it didn't matter to them. Plus, at that point of time, this old playbook of creating a store on Shopify and then driving traffic through Facebook ads was working beautifully. So there was no real reason or motivation for them to really look at some other platform. Now, what has happened post-pandemic world is that most of these brands today they want to drive at least 20% of their revenue through direct to consumer channel. Why? Because one, they have tasted the value of this channel, because the value of this channel is not yet another sales channel, but primarily this is the only channel where brands have any sort of customer intimacy, right? All other channels, be it retail or marketplaces, they're black boxes. They don't share any data, any behavior data with them. This is the
Mhm.
only place where brands have access to the first party data. They can learn from the consumer behavior. They can try out new product introductions, some innovations, and they really enjoyed this experience. This is invaluable for them. Plus, if they can get it right organically, then this could be the highest profitable channel as well. So today, every brand that we speak to, they want to do at least 20% of their revenue through D2C, if not more. But at the same
Mhm.
time, the old playbook of Shopify plus Facebook ads is not working anymore. So what's the solution? The solution we give to the brands is that do not build another commerce platform, because consumers will not come to another commerce platform. They will rather go to an Amazon and buy that. What you got to do instead is build an experiential platform and attract through great content. You retain them through community engagement, and then commerce becomes the byproduct of that experience. So you got to converge content, community, and commerce together seamlessly. Now, a lot of brands, they believe in this. They have been wanting to do this for a long time, but there's a technology challenge. Because today, you either have a full stack commerce platforms, be it Shopify or Shopify Plus or a Magento or a Salesforce Commerce, they're pure commerce platforms. They don't have content and engagement capability. Then you have either a WordPress or a Contentful or a Content Stack, which is a complete content platform. These platforms, they do not have commerce capabilities. So invariably, a lot of these mid-sized brands, I mean, they are stuck in between. The smaller brands, they have no choice but to work with Shopify and WooCommerce. The larger one can build their own custom platforms. But the ones in the middle, the mid-market brands, they want to deliver that kind of an experience, But the only option today is that, okay, you set up a Shopify Plus or a Magento storefront, but all your content and engagement is happening on a different platform, which is a WordPress or a Contentful. And at max, you will give a link to your product. And the moment there is a redirection, 90% of the traffic drawn. So that's the problem we're solving. What we're giving is one unified, seamless platform where the brands have the power of a content platform, a commerce platform, and community engagement capabilities all in one, seamlessly, non-templatized, so that every brand can have their own unique experiences.
And so, look, I agree with everything you've said. I've recognized these challenges before with clients I've worked with that look that there's a tension between pure commerce platforms and pure content platforms. We saw it with WordPress trying to bolt on commerce functionality through WooCommerce. It's still a clunky interface. It's a clunky transition between content and commerce on most platforms. We saw from BigCommerce to Shopify to almost any other platform you care to name that's a SaaS platform out there that's a commerce targeted platform. We've seen them bolt on blog engine functionality, etc., where you can in those blog articles embed products, etc. But to your point, I think that the transition between content and commerce is, unless you build a largely custom solution or a headless solution, it becomes difficult to merge content and commerce in a seamless way. We see the very large brands do it very well, where the content is interspersed with the products and the products are interspersed with the content very seamlessly. And we have quiz commerce plugins and apps and applications that try to solve for the interaction needs of the customer, also collecting important preference data for the merchant that then allows them to retarget both on the site appropriate products, but also from a MarTech perspective and a CDP perspective, it allows them to better target their customers. But largely, I agree with you that the commerce-focused platforms do content poorly, and the content-focused platforms do e-commerce poorly, generally speaking. And so I guess my question still remains, do you see yourselves as a replacement for the likes of Shopify, BigCommerce, etc., or do you see yourselves as the ideal complementary solution to these existing commerce-focused platforms?
If I were to be honest, Jason, I think we would be a replacement for Shopify or WooCommerce or a BigCommerce kind of a solution. But the way we look at it is that truly for the mid-market segment for brand, there is no platform out there today. So typically what we see is once a brand hits maybe whatever a few $1 million or 5 million, 10 million, they tend to outgrow Shopify or even a Shopify Plus experience. And then they tend to look at what's the next solution that gives me more flexibility, where I can create better engagement. And invariably, they would either look at a Magento or maybe a BigCommerce, or maybe some will probably try to do a best of breed integration with the headless commerce using with starting with commerce tools, Contentful, Nasal, Gatsby. You'll have some four solutions plugged together, and then you have an SI to build this, and which is extremely expensive, complex, and not easy, right? For a lot of these brands to do it. What we believe is that this is the only purpose with built platforms for brand where natively it has the content capabilities, it has the community engagement capabilities, and of course it has the commerce capabilities. And the brands can decide what the experience needs to look like. It is not templatized like most commerce platforms where you have the home page, the category page, the PDP, and the checkout workflow. Instead of that, we allow freedom where brands can design whatever front-end experiences they want, and they can intersperse the pieces of content, the pieces of community engagement, and pieces of commerce in one single page, and they can design whatever flow they want. But to make it easier for brands, what we also offer is that if, let's say, someone is on an existing commerce platform, we can harness the backend of that through the APIs and plug into our platform so that for them, the migration or the journey is fairly seamless. And our focus is the mid-sized brands, typically anyone that's doing between 5 million ARR to even a 500 million ARR is a sweet spot, because these are the brands that have outgrown Shopify but do not have the wherewithal to build their own custom platform. And our mission is to give them the power of a custom platform, but convenience of one unified platform. So that's our target segment.
Makes sense. Now, when I look at your website, it's not 100% clear to me whether you're a SaaS platform, whether you're an on-prem platform. Are you a SaaS platform? What kind of pricing tiers do you have for your platform? I don't see pricing on your website. I guess the first question is, are you SaaS? And then how do you charge? How do you guys make your money off your platform?
Sure. So we are an enterprise B2B SaaS platform, Jason, and it's not a Shopify replacement. So it's not DIY off the shelf. There's a pricing plan there. It's an enterprise grade product. So for the mid-size enterprises, the pricing is, of course, customized for each client. So it's B2B SaaS. The closest comparison would be, let's say, Salesforce Commerce. So what a typical, let's say, Salesforce Commerce model would be, similarly, the same model we use over here. The other thing is we just came out of stealth mode the last month, and we announced it, and we are in a soft launch mode, working with a couple of beta clients prior to that, and now actually launched in the US market and onboarding our first set of enterprise customers. We will be doing a full formal launch in some time, but still in the soft launch mode.
Right. Now, you said you're a B2B SaaS platform. You say you're targeted at D2C merchants. So when you say you're a B2B SaaS platform, do you mean that you are targeting B2B merchants, or are you still continuing to target D2C merchants?
No, we'll be targeting D2C merchants, Jason. When I say B2B, it is basically that enterprise B2B SaaS platform, not a DIY SaaS platform, wherein it's like a Salesforce Commerce as an example, or an Adobe Experience Manager as an example. So where the pricing will be customized, because this is for the mid-size brands. So this is not a, let's say, a $299 or a $2,000 Shopify or a Shopify Plus plan. It is a mid-market for the mid-size brands, and the pricing is customized to their need. But it's a SaaS platform in the sense where it's a multi-tenant platform. Multiple brands will be coexisting in the same cloud environment, each, of course, having their own security, privacy, and own setup. There is a one-time setup that we do because it's not a templatized solution and not a DIY solution. So there's a one-time setup for the as per the brand's need on the front end, and then there's an ongoing support, maintenance, upgrades, like a proper subscription.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, obviously, when we think about Shopify, BigCommerce, Salesforce Commerce Cloud, VTEX, any of the major SaaS e-commerce platforms out there, they have a partnership program where the vendor is not the one doing the implementation. They have partners that do the implementation with custom design, custom themes, custom templates that get built, custom front-end logic, usually driven by JavaScript. And therefore, you would always go to a partner to have those sites implemented on those platforms would be done by a partner, even if it was the enterprise class version of those platforms. And so for you guys,
Absolutely.
are implementations done by your partners? Are implementations done directly by you? And what does that look like? What does your partnership model look like?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, Jason. For such platforms, it is partner-led. So we are working with a few handpicked. We have also worked in the past. One part I did not mention in our introduction was before starting dotkonnekt, we've had over 20 plus years of experience in the retail, consumer brands, digital commerce and experience space, working with largely with the US and the European clients. I lived in the US for 10 years before moving back to Bangalore. My co-founder Chandan is still in the US in New Jersey. Our third co-founder and CTO has also worked both in US and Europe. And also between us, we have worked primarily with a lot of these large B2B product and SaaS companies. And we completely believe in the power of this partner-led growth in the segment that we are in. So the first thing that we did even before a soft launch, that we created a curated ecosystem. So wherein our platform, wherever we need to integrate with, whether it's a MarTech platform, whether it's an order management platform or a demand forecasting platform. So we have all those partner ecosystem as well, plus partnerships with the relevant agencies that, who can actually do the on the ground implementations. Of course, for the first few clients, we are also going to be involved with them, working together with some of our partners. But after that, it will all be partner-driven, partner-led, all these implementations and customizations.
That's a very common go-to-market for new SaaS platforms, is that the vendor will need to seed the market with the initial few implementations as proof of concepts, and so that they can generate white papers and they can generate the collateral they need to have a broader go-to-market model via the partner ecosystem. I guess that's very common. There's nothing new about the vendor needing to jumpstart the market and jumpstart the demand for their platform in market. So it makes complete sense to me. That's completely normal, completely standard,
Yep.
and it's a proven go-to-market model for sure. And so when we think about I guess, the technical aspects of the platform and of the theme engine, etc., is your platform built with effectively a headless approach internal to your own platform, to where you're connecting to your own internally SaaS hosted storefront front end, the SaaS hosted back end, similar to what Shopify is trying to do with Hydrogen and Oxygen, and other SaaS platforms are trying to move to headless on their own platform? Are you guys taking a headless first approach on your own theme engine with your own front end, to where other people can plug in their own front ends, but also can use your SaaS hosted front end if they so desire for their storefront? Is that the approach that you're taking, or are you taking a very monolithic approach to your platform with the ability for people to take a headless commerce approach via your backend API?
You're absolutely right. It is completely headless and it is also composable. So what we have also done is so that we make it highly modular and composable for our customers, so that they are not forced to rip and replace everything at once. If they choose to, they can do it in a more organic fashion, incremental fashion as well. And we take composability also for the front end design as well. So that instead of doing very manual from scratch, building the front end and then calling all the headless APIs from the backend, because that also takes several months and could be very expensive. So we have also taken a composable approach for the front end design also through our studio. Headless first and composable second.
Great. So even if someone deploys your platform monolithically, meaning they're using both your front end and your back end, that front end is decoupled from the back end and is connected to the back end via APIs, even on your own storefront.
Absolutely.
That certainly seems to be the direction that most of the major players are going, which is really good to see, because I think that for headless solutions to gain significant traction in the market, that it's going to have to come via the monolithic platform providers, because this piecemeal approach to headless doesn't seem to, it's just so costly, it's so complex, it's so time consuming for brands to implement. They have to have their own internal resource. And with your platform, would you recommend that the merchants that you would typically target as part of your ICP, your ideal customer profile, that they have significant development capability and technical capability in-house? Or is this the type of thing where they don't necessarily need to have huge technical capability in-house, and really the solution can be handed over to the marketing team primarily to drive the content blend with commerce, using in-house resources primarily around marketing, content creation, and the like?
Yeah, so it's the latter, Jason. One of the design principles that we had when we were conceptualizing the platform was that there should not be too much of an overhead for the brands, because we are targeting the mid-sized brands. They would not really have a large IT organization, and we don't want them to get stuck with hiring some developers to do even the basics. So the way it's been designed is, all we tell the brands is, okay, the marketing team can work with a design agency and can just give us the front end design. That's all. Our implementation partners using our design studio will be able to build out the storefront. Backend, in fact, like I mentioned, because we have given a very modular and a composable approach. So if certain brands have already invested in adopting a certain commerce platform or a content platform, and they want to harness that, platform is modular enough to integrate with that, and they don't have to worry about it once it is done on an ongoing basis for day-to-day operations. Let's say if they want to create some of these composable experiences, where they want to intersperse certain pieces of content with some engagement and some products, all of that can be done in a matter of seconds by the marketing or a merchandising team, by the business users, no technical knowledge required. And on an ongoing basis, they would probably not have to keep even one single tech developer to manage the platform.
That sounds like music, again, to a D2C brand's ears, that's for sure. Even if they're a mid-enterprise brand that's doing 30, 40, $50 million a year, not having to maintain super technical capabilities in-house and being able to focus on really their core competencies as a business, and product innovation and sales innovation, marketing innovation, and being able to personalize the experience to the customer. Now, when it comes to other technologies plugging into your platform, like site search technology, like personalization technology, and some of the other technologies that are very common out there, the Nostos of the world, the Algolias of the world, etc., how are you looking to ultimately create an app store type of model around your platform? Because obviously it's very difficult for any platform to do 100% of everything perfectly well themselves on their own without third-party dev support, without third-party application support and integrations and out-of-the-box integrations with third-party vendors. What are you looking to do, and how are you looking to engage with the developer community around building products that can seamlessly integrate with your platform and improve its overall level of capability?
So before I answer that question, Jason, I need to ask you, by any chance, have you seen our internal memos and the product roadmap? Because all these, this is exactly what we are doing. Because again, being in this space for over 2 decades, we are not naive to think that we'll be able to build the entire platform and the ecosystem around it all by ourselves. We are very clear about one thing, that imagine what Shopify has done for the SMB commerce and what Salesforce has done, let's say, for the retail commerce. Someone has to do that for the consumer brands. And we believe that we are seeding that whole ecosystem with our platform, with our core platform, which we are calling it as an experiential commerce platform. But we are 100% partner driven organization, where not just working with the implementation agencies or some of these third party products to integrate with them initially, but the way we have designed the platform is that it is becoming like a marketplace for other solutions to plug in as well. So that tomorrow, if brand requires maybe any specific capability to be plugged in, they don't have to just depend on us to either build it or for them to do the customization. They can just plug in a third-party solution as well. And that's where when in our infancy stages, we had a very strong focus on building this whole partner ecosystem. And given that we have been in the space for the last 20 plus years and worked with a lot of these players, that has really helped us to build at least an initial set of these partners. And as we keep working with some of these brands and we identify new needs, our partner team is always in the mode of signing up new partners over there. And we have a very simple way of onboarding a partner, both contractually as well as technically. So that makes it very easy to onboard any.
So effectively, you're going to have an agency partner program and you're going to have a tech partner program.
Absolutely. It's already underway. So we have already signed up a few partners on both these tracks.
Fantastic. Listen, it's been awesome chatting with you. And if people want to find out more about dotkonnekt, and I'll just spell that out for people so that they get it right, because it may not be spelled exactly how they think it's going to be spelled. So it's dotkonnekt.com, dotkonnekt.com. Are they best to go and check out the dotkonnekt.com website and click connect with us, and then presumably it'll send you an email and they can reach out and potentially become one of your design or beta partners or soft launch partners? Or would you prefer that they connect with you directly on LinkedIn, or either one or both? What would you prefer in terms of people want to learn more about the platform? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, either one works. In fact, we are fairly active on both. We keep getting some inbound requests on both the channels, and we typically respond within 24 hours to set up the discussion. And always glad to just discuss without any obligations, understand their need, explain them what we're doing, show them the demo, some of the art of the possible that we can enable for them, and then take it from there.
Fantastic. I'll put links to your LinkedIn profile and to your website in the show notes, and that way people can click through and link to you. Now we're coming to the point in our time together where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It could be personal, it could be professional. So Dhiraj Jain from dotkonnekt, what is your question for me today?
So given that we had a pretty hearty conversation on the future of e-commerce, I would love to just understand that what is that one big wish list item for you, given that you have spent so much time in the e-commerce space as well and understand this whole ecosystem extremely well. What is that one thing you feel that no one is really getting it right and something needs to be done there?
Look, I think there's probably lots of things on my list, but I think that where Shopify started to get things right from a combined online and in-store platform, a singular system, with their Shopify POS, I think that they still are lagging in some respects in the deep integration of POS with the core commerce platform. Still see in many engagements where I am still needing to do a lot of consultation on the correct POS platform for a brand, how to deeply integrate that in with both ERPs and with the commerce platform itself from an inventory management perspective, particularly if they've got more than, say, 5 to 10 retail stores. If they've got 100 plus retail stores, Shopify POS and the granular control over individual locations isn't quite there yet in terms of what we need to do in terms of order routing, order management, click and collect, all that stuff. I think Shopify's on the path. I think they're on the journey, but I think there's quite a bit more work they need to do to help brands that have, 50, 100, 200, 300, 400 store size states. The vast majority of those brands, 99% plus of those brands, really still need a dedicated POS solution. Has to be system integrated with the rest of the tech stack. And I think there's room for another commerce platform out there to follow Shopify's lead and have. Back in the day, I think there was real big question marks around whether Shopify did the right thing to even come out with POS at all. There was a lot of noise in the ecosystem about whether that was the right move, whether they should be distracted by building out POS and allocate dev resources to building out POS, when everyone was thinking, well, shouldn't they really stick to their bread and butter, stay in their lane, focus on e-commerce and build out the best e-commerce platform for D2C and B2C that they can. But I think they've been proven right, especially during the pandemic. I think that there was a lot of brands that onboarded POS into their business, even though POS was pretty immature, just to help them start to do a lot of click and collect stuff and a lot of zero contact type of e-commerce. And so I think that there's an opportunity there. I think there's a very, very big opportunity. There's the complexity of integrating POS into your overall business operations is very high. And the biggest challenge of all that I see is the fact that the language of promotions and pricing models and variant models and all that sort of stuff doesn't translate well when you run an independent POS that is completely independent of the commerce system. They don't speak the same language. And so therefore trying to translate pricing and variants and promotions and all that stuff into a language that the POS understands, being able to do things like store credits and being able to do things like loyalty and all that stuff that you need to integrate and to try to create the same experience in store that you do online. That is extremely difficult when the POS is completely independent of the commerce system. And so I think that there is an opportunity, a gap in the market for a fully integrated POS system that is fully featured, for example, to the degree that dedicated POS systems are, but that are also part of the commerce system. I still think there's a gap out there. I don't think Shopify fills that need for every merchant out there. This is something I've actually never talked about before. I've given lots of my thoughts around what's one thing that the industry could do to improve, but that's one of the things that really leaps to mind for me, especially for omnichannel retailers.
No, absolutely. In fact, I couldn't agree more. Incidentally, in my past life, I worked on a platform which was into this whole unified commerce experience, precisely to solve this problem for retailers where the store experience and online experiences. How do you bridge that? How do you make it highly seamless? Again, I completely agree with your analysis, and I think that is the way to go, because eventually every brand has to become omni-channel, right? You can't just have siloed platforms for siloed experiences. Eventually, all of this needs to converge. And you completely agree. And it's a problem that a lot of people are trying to solve. And of course, at some point of time in our roadmap as well, the unified commerce is there at the top of the list too. Yeah, I would love to have a chat on this topic also at some point of time, Jason.
Thank you so much, Dhiraj. I've really enjoyed our time together. I've learned a lot. And look, it's exciting to see another platform come to market. There's lots of platforms out there, and I think that there's room in the market for more platforms that are more verticalized, that are more niche, that are more targeted. I think that the existing platforms in the market, it's impossible for them to be all things to all merchants. Sure, absolutely. Maybe Shopify is good based on the 80-20 rule. Maybe Shopify is good for 80% of the B2C, D2C merchants out there, but there's that very large chunk of 20% out there that just cannot be serviced by the common off-the-shelf platforms that are already out there in the market. And so I wish you all the best with what you're doing. I know how hard it is to build a platform. I know how hard it is and how expensive it is and how time consuming it is to build out a platform that you're ready to go to market with. So anybody that puts themselves in the firing line for that challenge, I am always behind them 100%, because as I said, I just don't think one platform can be all things to all merchants. And so we do need, in addition to the mainstream platforms, we need more niche platforms out there that are shaking it up, that are keeping the big platforms honest, that are challenging them, challenging their thinking, and are smaller and more agile and able to adapt more quickly to market needs. So congratulations on getting, you're already in soft launch mode, but getting into full-blown launch mode. And look, we'd like to catch up with you again in another year or so and see where dotkonnekt has got to. And I wish you every success, mate.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jason. Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed the chat and would love to keep in touch.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.